Welcome to the YourTown television program. My name is Jeff Kline, and I'm your host for the Naval Postgraduate School Foundation sponsored segment of this program where we bring you faculty, students, and staff who are doing interesting things in your local area. For this segment, we'd like to welcome Commander Todd Greene, United States Navy, who is our head engineering duty officer on campus. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Before we get into what you do on MPS, we'd like to learn a little bit more about you. Mainly because you're a local person and we have a local audience who's interested in that. But tell us, why did you join the Navy? What brought you to becoming in the service?
Yeah, good question. So I did not have a big history of military service in my family. My dad was in the Army for a little bit, but not a legacy like that.
Right.
I was interested in going to a school where I could learn naval architecture and be on a sailing team, be someplace on the East Coast. And the Naval Academy started checking a lot of boxes.
Well, wow. Okay, so where were you reared, actually, to get these interests?
Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut.
Yeah.
By the seashore?
By the shore, yep. Grew up on the water, sailing.
Near Mystic?
On the western end of Connecticut, Fairfield County.
Yeah. And so you got that interest, but what got you interested in architecture, maritime architecture?
Naval architecture. I always interested in what made one boat better than a different one faster than another. So that led to naval architecture.
That's pretty fascinating. Was your dad into boats too? Is that
he
it?
was, yeah. So
okay.
he grew up in Rhode Island and grew up boating and sailing and
Right.
introduced me to it. And yeah, that's what we did.
You wanted to become a yacht designer to do the America's Cup design. Is that it?
Still do.
Is that right? Good.
Someday, down the road.
So you decided that, and so you just don't go to the Naval Academy. You have to apply for it. So that happened in high school for you?
Sure, yes, it did in high school. And so once I had the naval architecture kind of idea, that shrinks your pool down pretty small.
Oh, okay.
The number of schools.
Right.
And yeah, Naval Academy sounded great. I wasn't opposed to the idea of going into the Navy.
Right.
I didn't put too much thought into it.
But you wanted that naval architecture.
I wanted that, yeah.
So what are those schools? They're MIT, the Naval Academy. What
sure,
other?
Michigan's a big one.
Oh, really? I
Coast
didn't know
Guard
that.
Academy. In fact, your next guest, I think, is a Michigan grad.
Okay.
Let's see, Coast Guard Academy, Tulane's got a program. Berkeley out here's got a program.
Does the Merchant Marine Academy?
They do.
They do as well?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just engineering, but it's actually architecture.
They do a lot of marine engineering, so
Yeah.
looking at the propulsion side, that's what they focus on.
So obviously, what did you study then at the Naval Academy?
Naval architecture,
There you go.
yeah, easy fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do that already. What was your experience like at the Academy?
Well, so it was great. So it follows on those same interests. Naval architecture as far as academics and the sailing team, specifically the offshore sailing team.
Oh, now wait a minute. You can't just go by that. That means you had adventures offshore. Where did you go with the sailing team?
All over. So every summer, this is, and anybody interested in the Naval Academy, this is the ticket, right? Because you're within the walls unless you go sailing. And so every afternoon, we were practicing sailing all over the place. But in the summers, I've been to Bermuda. I think I was 3 times at the Academy. I've been 9 times since.
Wow.
Sailing to Bermuda. Lots of racing all over the East Coast.
So you were actually on part of the racing team.
I was.
At the Academy as well, and you went to the Bermuda race.
That's right.
So did you get any time there? Did you get a chance to spend some time over
Yeah,
there?
so that's the benefit, right? You get there, the faster you get there, the more time you have there. So it's a motivator.
So it's not a round trip, it's only a one-way, is that it?
It's a round trip usually,
Yeah.
But you've got a certain number of days there. So we have 4 or 5 days each time.
Had you ever been there before you were a midshipman?
I had, yeah. I'd been there once before with my family, so I knew
Okay.
about it. And now I've been there so many times. It's a great spot.
So after you graduated from the Academy, where did you go?
I went to Hawaii. So my first ship was a USS Chosen in Hawaii, in Pearl Harbor.
Which is a cruiser,
Cruiser.
right?
I was the main propulsion officer.
So you went right into engineering.
I did.
Was that your choice, or?
That was the opening for me, although it fit just fine. That was the opening they had.
Right.
So no, not my choice.
Did you want to go to Hawaii, being
I did.
from the East
yes,
Coast?
I did pick that ship specifically. I wanted to go out to Hawaii.
Now, the academies, you actually got a selection board
Right.
based on your class standing and
Yeah.
where you got. So that was on a board and a choice, along with the billet MBA or
MPA, no.
MPA?
No, you don't choose your billet, just a ship.
Just a ship. Okay.
So, and it's done by class rank. You're literally in line behind the guy who got
A little higher GPA
test grade,
and right in front of a guy who got a little lower one, right?
So you're talking to the people around you, where you want to go, what ships do you want, and you don't want to hear them say, I want to go to a cruiser in Hawaii,
Right.
if it's the guy right in front of you.
So there's a lot of game theory right at that
Yeah,
particular
at the last
area.
instant, right.
So why did you want to go to Hawaii?
I hadn't been.
Yeah.
Looked like a fun place to live. You know, the Navy gives you those opportunities, so jumped on it.
And what year was this?
I graduated in '99, so I was there from 2000 2002.
Right. Okay. And then did you deploy on Chosin?
I did. We went to the 5th Fleet, so we went basically from Hawaii to Persian Gulf.
Whoa. And did you get any good stops in between, or did you have to go straight?
We did. No, it's a great spot to stop or start from. So you start from Hawaii, went to Australia, we went to Thailand on the way
What part of
back.
Australia?
Went to Melbourne and Perth.
Oh, Melbourne and Perth. What a great experience.
And actually on the way home we went to Darwin. So
you kind of, in a
we
way,
saw the whole thing.
went lower of the part and to the north on the other one. Huh?
Right.
Well, that's great. So, of the time in the 5th Fleet, though, or the Persian Gulf area, you paid for that.
Yeah, it was a busy time.
Yes, it was. So you got it back. So you qualified engineering officer watch when you were actually doing that job.
Right.
Did you actually have a second job on Chosin, or?
Well, so I mean, every junior officer is officer of the deck, so we were driving the ship.
Right.
And then I was standing the EO as well, depending on
Engineering officer watch.
engineering officer of the watch.
You know, ironically, we designed a fuel transit planner for Chosin much later after you had already gone,
Right.
And given it to the MPA so that they could actually optimize the plant for minimized fuel, and that was developed here at MPS.
Yeah.
And they used it in a deployment in 5th Fleet to test it out. So you were the MPA. Did you stay on that ship then and have a second tour, or did you go somewhere
No,
else?
my second tour was in a destroyer squadron in Norfolk, Virginia.
Wow, that's a big jump from Hawaii back to Norfolk.
That's right, in February.
What
So,
squadron?
26.
Okay.
And we deployed on George Washington, the
And
aircraft
you
carrier.
did material or combat systems associated with that?
That one I was the assistant operations officer
Oh,
for
really?
the Desron.
Okay.
So that was ops side. And yeah, running ships around the Persian Gulf again, this way going from the other direction.
But this time planning all those movements and that sort of thing.
That's right. As a lieutenant, it was eye-opening how far the plan that the lieutenant comes up with actually gets approved. Yeah, it's amazing.
So you actually got some great experience on the operational side there as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how long was that tour?
18 months.
Okay.
And after that, I went to patrol craft, a PC.
One of the smaller ships.
Right.
Where was that home ported?
Little Creek, although we did a hull swap and we were in Bahrain for about half the time.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, I loved it. So I had already laterally transferred to be an engineering duty officer before I took that job.
Right.
And my boss at the destroyer squadron really wanted to keep me as a SWO.
So he was giving you PC experience to keep you as a service line officer.
It was one of those stories you hear about where he called me in his office. He said, "What would you like to do?" I said, I'd love to go on a PC. Those look like so much fun.
Now that's patrol craft, so it's a small crew. Everybody counts on each other. The morale's rather high.
That's right. 4 officers.
Yep.
When you're driving the ship, you are literally driving the ship. You're
Right.
not relaying orders. And so I said I'd love to go to PC, specifically the Whirlwind, because I had a friend who had just taken command.
Oh, fantastic! So
And
you got to go see him.
The next day, I got a phone call from the detailer. Hey, I got a job for you on the Whirlwind. So then quickly I called the engineering duty officers and said, "Hey, I still want to do this.
I just want a little delay.
What do you think?" And they said, "You're junior enough. It's going to make you a better EDO in the long run, so go do that."
Well, yeah, and the reason why, of course, is because as an engineering duty officer, you have a much deeper appreciation for the first service community, both in the smaller craft and the cruisers, which is the largest one there is.
Absolutely, yeah.
That must have been a great tour.
It was. It was my favorite tour. And driving the ship, it doesn't get better than you've got 4 huge engines. You can do anything you want with that ship, maneuver-wise. And we were right on the edge. We were all the way in the northern edge of the Persian Gulf, looking at Iran most of the time.
Well, we still have boats in that area, but not many PCs left. We're looking at options for replacing those PCs now. And now, when you came in the Navy, at one time there was a choice. When you received your commission, you had an option. You'd go service line officer and exercise an option to go EDO. Did you have that, or did you just?
I did not. I laterally transferred.
Okay.
So I knew about it, although the way the engineering duty officers have reworked that over the years, it was 3/4 of our sessions were through lateral transfer and 1/4 was option. And since then, we've switched it. So most of our sessions now are EDO options.
I'm not going to ask you if you think that's a healthy thing or not, but at least they get experience of some sort before they come into the
It
EDO
helps
community.
the manpower planning side of it know
Right.
you've at least got 3/4 of your people locked in.
Locked in, and they know that they're coming in that
Right,
way.
right.
So let's talk a little bit about what an engineering duty officer does.
Sure.
What are their responsibilities in the Navy, and what different jobs that they hold as they walk through their career.
Okay. So it's a small subset of officers in the Navy, about 800 or so, and we control all the acquisition of new ships and submarines and warfare systems. That's a big piece of it. We also do all the maintenance and upkeep of ships and submarines. And then we've got some of us who do satellites, C4I systems, or communication systems. So it's a broad, diverse portfolio with just a few people, which is why we send most of our officers here to get a technical graduate degree.
Well, now if you're in charge of the systems dealing with space, do you normally take the officers that have maritime or naval architecture degrees, or do they get them other degrees to actually satisfy with the programs that they're going to go into, or does it make any difference?
Technically it does not make a difference. You can get any degree and go to any job, although you'll see people start to align themselves in our space systems operations or space systems engineers here often go to the National Reconnaissance Office and get linked up that way.
All right, so they'll actually figure that out there.
Right.
Well, let me reinforce something. So for a lateral transfer or someone who's after they're done with their operational experience, they'll come here, or do all EDOs come here for graduate degree programs, or do you send them other places as well?
The vast majority come here. We have a small contingent that goes to MIT.
Right, and so
about 12.
What are some of the programs that they study while they're here?
Our students are in applied physics, systems engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science, EE, space systems.
Electrical engineering, space systems.
Right.
And what did you study?
Mechanical engineering.
Okay, you say that definitely, like.
Yeah.
All right.
I definitely was not going into EE.
I see. That's right. At least mechanical engineering, you can see what's broke.
That's right.
In electrical engineering, it's still theory.
That's
so
right.
you're not
Someone's
quite sure.
got to tell you. Yeah.
So we had another guest, Kyle Chance, who is currently a student and participated in the Total Ship Systems Engineering program 3-course sequence. When you were a student here, did you go through that as well?
I did. Yes.
All right. And what did you design?
We designed a ballistic missile defense cruiser, essentially.
Oh, well, you had some experience then on being a cruiser and that sort of thing.
Right, yeah. We had a great team. We had a bunch of EE students on our team who were doing railgun research. So that ship, we pushed as far as we could technologically at the time on that ship. And we had railgun, we had a molten salt reactor.
So wait a minute, let's step back a little bit. A railgun doesn't use propellant.
Right.
It uses an electric charge to actually make the bullet go out.
That's right.
So that requires a lot of power, which means your design had to include a lot of power. Is that right?
Correct, which led us to the nuclear reactor. And instead of going with the standard water-cooled reactor, we went with a molten salt reactor, which is part of the fun of the TSSE program. You don't have the typical boundaries that people say that's too crazy, too far off. Lets you explore crazy ideas.
Well, in fact, that's one of the great things about the Naval Postgraduate School is our students get to come here and explore some of those crazy ideas that later become reality.
That's
or
right.
Revisited.
That's right.
So what's a molten salt reactor? You actually melt down salt as a coolant?
Yeah, it's liquid thorium. So the reactive material is mixed in with this salt, and it's inherently safe. If it gets too hot, this plug melts out the bottom and it solidifies.
Oh.
So yeah, it's kind of backwards.
Well, that doesn't sound crazy to me.
No. It's a pretty actually mature design. It's just not something the Navy's been pursuing recently.
Well, after you graduated from MPS, what'd you do?
After MPS, I went to the Supervisor Shipbuilding in Newport News, Virginia, and I delivered CVN 77, which was George H.W. Bush.
Right, so that's one of the jobs of EDOs is to that building, when we're building ships, you're monitoring those and pushing those along, right?
Right, yeah, the acquisition of new ships includes the delivery of the ships at the actual contractor's facility.
Great, and then after that job?
After that, I went to the Naval Academy and taught.
Okay.
So I went there as a weapons instructor and taught essentially applied physics to everyone. And the timing was great because I'm seeing many of those students now. It's one of my motivations for coming back here was the timing for a lot of the EDs,
that you had as students,
that I recruited as options are now coming back and getting their graduate degrees.
Great, and so they have you for a second time. Is that right?
Yeah, good or bad, they get me twice. Right?
So after you taught at the academy, what'd you do?
After the academy, I went into D.C. to 3 different program office jobs. They were all within the Littoral Combat Ship program.
So now that's not the building of them. That's actually the management of acquisition of funds and making sure they're properly applied and contracting and that, right? Is that
That's
correct?
right. It's not directly overseeing the construction, but you're certainly managing the construction.
That doesn't sound as fun.
No, it was a busy time. So the years I was there, we had just delivered 2 of the Littoral Combat Ships,
Right.
and they were essentially prototype research and development ships, and we were transitioning into serial production. So we were going to deliver 4 ships a year. We had to stop these ad hoc kind of R&D processes and establish a real process.
To actually get them delivered and out the door.
Get them delivered and supported.
Yeah.
And that, I'm pretty proud looking back. They used to be in the news all the time, and now they're in the news because we're delivering another one, not because they're breaking.
And they're working. That's
Right.
great. Well, that's great. And now from there, did you come to MPS again? Or did you come back, or did you have one other tour?
No, I came
Right.
direct from there. I had 3 tours related to LCS.
Right.
and
So you
then
went through
came-
that sequence and then came back out here.
Right.
That's great. Well, we're lucky to have you out here. Now explain what you do at MPS.
So as the program officer, I'm program officer for mechanical engineering and systems engineering and physics, which encompasses most of those engineering duty officers.
Right.
There's two roles really. The internal role is to help those students graduate, make sure they're getting everything they need with all the life issues that come up and all the scholastic issues and anything that happens, making sure that they're cared for and they graduate.
Right.
That's internal. External, which I had no idea of when I was a student here, was the keeping the curriculum aligned with the Navy. Right. The Navy has certain requirements for these curricula.
Right.
Right. We have educational skills that we want the students to get. Those skills change as the world changes, and keeping the school aligned with that sponsorship and with what the Navy needs is a big piece of my time.
Well, I can understand that, because if the Navy's suddenly interested in a new form of engineering, it may be true or not true that our faculty is prepared to respond to that. So you're the kind of conduit that actually has to receive that information and work with our academics to say, how are we going to deliver that educational skill capability for our students? And that can be challenging at times.
That's right. If the faculty or the institution really isn't built to teach something new, you have to push them in a different direction to get that capability.
Or focus them on hiring that capability as well.
Yeah.
Now, you are also involved, and we're going to have, of course, Professor Dodosiak here a little bit later to talk about the Total Ship Systems Engineering Project. But you're sort of involved in that too. How do you involve yourself in that 3-course sequence that designs ships?
Right. So it's I did it as a student here, so I was exposed to it as a student, and as I came back, I wanted to get involved advising it. I think it's probably the most fun part of my job. Certainly not a job requirement. So I help come up with the projects each year and help apply some reality where we need to.
As they go through the progress. Yeah.
So we have program reviews just like they would. We do all the steps like they would if they're running a real program. One of the biggest compliments we actually got after last year's project, we briefed it to 3 flag officers, and they left the room saying, "You guys are ready to go to a program office."
That's great.
So by having 3 flag officers talk to our lieutenants that way, that's good.
And that helps the students know that they were all the time they spent in the classroom, there's an applied reason for that, and it makes it really great. Well, one last question before I let you go. You have been here twice now in Monterey County. What do you enjoy most about living in this area?
Oh, it's such a great area. So my wife and I, we met here. We were both students.
Well, there you go. That's one advantage right there.
First good memory.
Right.
And so when we had the opportunity to come back and we got these orders, we jumped on it and said we knew what we were getting into. I got to tell you the truth, I've got a 3-year-old daughter now, so the experience this time around with a 3-year-old.
Is focused around Dennis the Menace Park, maybe?
A lot of time at Dennis the Menace. Last time, a lot of time at Tahoe and Yosemite and Big Sur. This time, mostly Dennis the Menace.
And maybe some short hiking trails.
Maybe the aquarium.
The aquarium, especially, exactly.
Right.
It's amazing how our life eras define what we find to do.
That's right.
Well, Todd, thank you very much for being on the show, and Commander, we appreciate both your work in the Navy and what you do for the Naval Postgraduate School, and we hope you can continue that and continue to punch out great engineering duty officers
Great.
at MPS.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for this segment of the Naval Postgraduate School Foundation sponsored Your Time television program. Join us again when we talk about interesting students and faculty and staff and what they're doing in your local area.